Thank you for joining us for this Idaho Environmental Forum show. I'm Tim Murphy, an Idaho Environmental Forum board member, and today I'm joined by three experienced Idaho managers with responsibilities for outdoor recreation on public and private lands. Danelle Highfill, the Recreation Program Manager at the Boise National Forest. Fred Noland, an environmental manager focused on recreation and public access at Idaho Power. And Tanya Thrift, the District Manager for the Bureau of Land Management's Boise District. Our three panelists will discuss an IEF member requested topic, recreation in the age of COVID. Now, the Idaho Environmental Forum is a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational association whose sole mission is to promote serious, cordial, and productive discourse on a broad range of environmental policies affecting Idaho. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors for making discussions like this one possible. You can find them on our website at Idaho Environmental Forum, all one word, .org. Last year, visiting a favorite trail, maybe a campsite, fishing stream, high mountain lake, or just about any other outdoor destination, many of us found a whole lot more neighbors than in the past seasons when we got to our destination. And a recent State of the Rockies poll sponsored by the Colorado College has shown that almost 60% of respondents plan to visit public lands more often in 2021 than they have in years past. Now that's on top of last year's recreation surge. Panelists, we're keen to hear from you over two broad areas. One, looking back, I'd like to hear your experiences managing recreation as COVID was first identified and then swept through Idaho and the nation. And looking forward, what are your expectations and plans for managing recreational use this season? Responding to these questions, I'll turn in order. First, Danelle, then Fred, and Tanya will finish up. So Danelle, please share your experiences and thoughts managing recreation, looking back and ahead as the 2021 season gets underway. Danelle. You can go ahead.
Okay. So when last spring, when COVID started, most of our campgrounds and recreation sites were still under snow. And for the safety of our employees and the public, we placed closures in areas where social distancing would be challenging. And we locked our signs restrooms as not maintained, since we were unable to maintain the cleaning regimen at that time. We needed time to develop new cleaning protocols to meet CDC guidelines and do the job safely. It was difficult to find cleaning supplies and personal protective equipment. And we set up an incident management team like we do on wildfire incidents, just to help with procuring and buying hard to find items. We did receive additional funding from the CARES Act for COVID cleaning and supplies, but it was difficult to hire additional staff at that point. We definitely saw an increase in use. It seemed like every weekend, it was just like it was on the 4th of July weekend previously. And weekdays were like weekend use. We normally don't open our campgrounds till mid-May when our seasonal staff comes on. And the public couldn't understand why campgrounds weren't open, and in some cases cut locks off of gates and went around closure signs. A lot of work goes into opening a campground. You can't just swing open the gate. We have to make sure they're safe by removing hazard trees, testing water systems, and repairing damage from the winter. As we learned more about COVID safety, we were able to open all our areas by Memorial Day in a compressed time frame, and we maintained social distancing, face coverings, and elevated cleaning procedures. We learned we have a lot of people who love spending time on the National Forest. For some, this may have been their first time and they were not as knowledgeable as we expected. Looking forward, we expect we'll have as many visitors as we did last year. We need to do more outreach to engage and inform our new users so they can have a great experience and do it safely. We are partnering with state and communities and other agencies and the media to raise awareness about responsible recreation. On the Boise National Forest, we're producing monthly responsible recreation videos that are posted to social media. Thank you. Back to you, Tim.
All right, and thank you, Danelle. Going to turn to Fred from Idaho Power. Fred, floor is all yours.
All right. Thanks a bunch for having me today. It's certainly been an interesting 18 months for those of us working in the public sector and trying to manage, safety with our visitors and our employees. Like Danelle mentioned, this upsurge has just been unbelievable. But I think it's really been an upswell that's been on the move for the last few years. We've been collecting traffic counter data at a lot of our sites and also reservation data. And just as an example, getting started during the pandemic, we really wanted to find out information about what did it mean to social distance? What does that mean for our employees? What does that mean for managing the public? What does it mean to be outside and in a group and versus individually? What does, if something is safe, how safe is it? So it really was this deluge of information that we were really trying to untangle. So we ended up erring on the side of caution. I think, like a lot of management entities, we really wanted to close down indoor spaces and try to give people a chance to space out and protect our employees at the same time. So, but that up front was really difficult. It was hard to put enough signs out to help educate people and ourselves at the same time and be safe. So as we worked through that, I think this year it's shaping up to be a lot better. People definitely understand the vernacular and the process and what it means to be indoors versus outdoors. So as the pandemic progressed and as our knowledge progressed, we were able to open more things up progressively and meet those demands that were ever present. As just sort of a case study, as an example, Shoshone Falls, that's kind of regionally, it's an important tourist destination. It is related to one of our hydro projects just outside the city of Twin Falls. That traffic counter, we've seen 35% growth in just from 2018 to 2020. So then if you look at the first 4 months of this year, we've seen another 9,000 vehicles just from last year at this time hit that counter. So it definitely has not let up, and it's been coming for years. But I feel like really now we're well armed to take care of our customers, to protect our employees with the proper PPE, and let people have those experiences and get outside. We understand now the safety of being outside and being in full sun, and that outdoor recreation is just as important as it's always been, if not more important. And people have really gravitated to it as a natural way to get outside and cope. The important message for me is now we as managers have a really important stewardship message to remind those people who may not have been out as much. Now that you're here, we're glad you're here, but understand that we're all working together to protect the resources that we're enjoying. So that's kind of where we're at, Tim.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Appreciate it. And we'll now turn to Tanya from the Bureau of Land Management. Tanya.
Thanks, Tim. So the Bureau of Land Management's Boise District manages approximately 4 million acres of public lands for multiple use in southwest Idaho. And our district stretches from the Nevada border north to McCall and Hells Canyon, and from the Oregon border east to Glens Ferry. So looking back on the pandemic, in the early days of the pandemic, the public lands and recreation sites managed by the BLM across Idaho largely remained open for public use, whereas other public sites managed by other agencies or privately owned may not have been open or accessible early in the pandemic in Idaho. That combined with the fact that public lands specific to the Boise District are typically the first to warm up and dry out, and that led to increased recreation use across our district. You know, and with so many closures in place early in the pandemic, a lot of people looked to public lands in the Boise District from the Treasure Valley as really the only available recreation opportunities as a way to stay healthy and cope with the realities of the pandemic. While we don't have a lot of specific data on the Boise District, we suspect, as the other speakers today, that many of the folks out using public lands were new. They didn't have a lot of experience and were not always prepared for remote recreation or familiar with basic tenets of ideas like pack it in, pack it out, or how to share public rangelands with other user groups and multiple use activities such as livestock raising. This occurred both at our developed sites, campgrounds and trailheads, and we also saw increased dispersed roadside camping throughout the district. And one of the issues that went along with that was a lot of garbage being left behind by the public, which is not necessarily new, but one of our recreation planners reported that he spent about 25% more of his time last year cleaning up trash left behind where people had camped compared to before the pandemic. And we also saw increased cases where there was resource damage caused by folks driving vehicles off route. The increase in recreation use is also felt by our partners, specifically rural counties, who have had to adapt to the additional strain on emergency management resources that coincide with that increased use. Many people in the Treasure Valley drive south across the Snake River to recreate in Owyhee County. Some of these new and inexperienced users to the area wind up getting stuck, sometimes stranded, lost, or even trespassing on public lands. And it really puts a strain on the county's emergency service resources, such as local law enforcement, EMTs, and search and rescue. And in the Boise District, we have public lands in a lot of rural counties, and things like search and rescue or other first responders are often trained volunteers, and capacity can be limited if there are multiple incidents that they have to respond to. And one other consequence, looking back on some of this increased use for the folks that didn't respect public lands or private property, the side effect is that private landowners can become reluctant to allow the public to cross private lands and access adjacent public areas. And now looking ahead, for the Boise District, we have continued to see a noticeable and continual increase in recreation over the last decade, which really coincides with the population growth in the Treasure Valley that Fred mentioned. And that started well before the pandemic. So the issues that our district faced during the pandemic, like some of the garbage and maybe novice recreation users, increased demands on emergency service, and really that increase in user conflicts. It wasn't new, but there was certainly a spike after the pandemic started. And just to give you one example of that, we have a trailhead called the Wilson Creek Trailhead that's located in Owyhee County, south of Marsing, in the Owyhee Front. And that area is designated for non-motorized use. For a lot of years, it's been a popular area for horseback riders and hikers and a few mountain bikers. Recently, it's become really popular for mountain bikers, and that's led to a lot of conflicts with horseback riders who have already felt a little displaced away from using the Boise Front. And so the Boise District is really leaning forward and wanting to continue to engage with partners such as the Wilson Creek Trail Coalition, groups like Ridge to Rivers, Idaho Rangeland Conservation Partners, and many other groups to work together with user groups and agencies to help us address those conflicts and develop some sustainable solutions. One of the ways that we try to ease that conflict between users and private landowners is to increase the availability of information about how you can access public lands in the district, and as well as responsible use. On our district, we've made maps available online, so folks can just download them on their smartphone and access that even when they don't have cell coverage. So hopefully they have the tools to help them, access those public lands they want to get to and avoid some of the situations where they might trespass. I think there's larger national efforts in place to help provide these kinds of materials to the public, and that would be a big help too. And then Idaho BLM has recently started an in-depth review and analysis of our recreation program, how we allocate appropriated funds to the districts and field offices for the recreation program, and really taking a look at what services we provide in light of a lot of the population growth and increased demands for outdoor recreation opportunity that we see will continue. And we're expecting some of this review and analysis to really help us leverage some more opportunities for funding and develop even new partnerships that'll help augment our recreation program across the state and be responsive to that increased demand and help the public be successful when they're out recreating on BLM managed lands. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tanya. Danelle Highfill, Tanya Thrift, Fred Noland, thanks for all you do and for all your teams do for all of us at our national forests, our public lands, and at Idaho Power's locations. And thank you to our IEF viewers for joining us for this forum short. If you have an idea for a forum short, we'd love to hear it. Just email us at ief@idahoenvironmentalforum.org. And if you'd like to be added to our member list, or you'd like to help us by becoming a sponsor, please visit Idaho Environmental Forum, all one word, .org. And again, thank you to our current sponsors. We couldn't do any of this without